Dear Professor Rowan, I understand you researched alongside Professor Oak and you specialise in the field of Pokemon evolution, but I think you've missed something. During my own research, I have found something that may interest you. A Pokemon like no other has been hiding a secret in its hard shell. It may be more powerful than we know, and more research should begin at once. This Pokemon is Shellder. Hey, what is up you guys, Glisky here, and today we're looking at the Pokemon Shellder, more specifically, what it's hiding under that hard shell. Now we all know that when a Shellder bites on a Slowpoke, it will become either a Slowbro or a Slowking, and I can't wait to tell you what I found out about researching these four Pokemon. I believe that Slowbro and Slowking are not the evolutions of Slowpoke, but actually the evolutions of Shellder.
Glisky, the Pokedex says that Slowbro and Slowking evolved from Slowpoke.
I hear you saying, well they're wrong, and I'm going to prove it. Let's start by describing what evolution in Pokemon actually is. When Pokemon evolve, it is actually much closer to metamorphosis than actual evolution. Metamorphosis is a biological process by which an animal physically develops after birth or hatching, involving conspicuous and relatively abrupt change in the animal's body structure through cell growth and differentiation. This describes evolution in Pokemon perfectly, but Slowpoke doesn't change at all, it's the Shellder that does all the changing. There is no difference between Slowpoke and Slowbro, besides their stats of course, but even their Pokedex entries show next to no difference. Their Pokemon Yellow Pokedex entries are almost the same. Slowpoke's reads, incredibly slow and sluggish, it is quite content to loll about without worrying about the time. And Slowbro's reads, lives lazily by the sea, if the Shellder on its tail comes off, it becomes a Slowpoke again. They're both very lazy, and the only difference is the Shellder on Slowbro's tail. If we look at more of their Pokedex entries, they mention that Slowpoke's tail is very flavorful. In Pokemon Silver, Slowpoke's Pokedex entry reads, a sweet sap leaks from its tail's tip. Although not nutritious, the tail is pleasant to chew on. And in Crystal it reads, it is always so absent-minded that it won't react even if its flavorful tail is bitten. Wow, its Pokedex entries really like to emphasize how dumb it is, don't they? But Slowbro's Pokedex entries also show the same thing. In Pokemon Crystal, Slowbro's Pokedex entry reads, an attached Shellder won't let go because of the tasty flavour that oozes out of its tail. So clearly, Shellder was baited onto Slowpoke's tail while it was fishing, and latched itself on. Maybe the sap that oozes out of Slowpoke's tail is really what evolves it into Shellbro. Yes, I'm calling them Shellbro and Shellking now, because Slowpoke doesn't change. It's just a Slowpoke. This is even proven thanks to the Pokemon X Pokedex entry for Shellbro. It reads, an attached Shellder won't let go because of the tasty flavour that oozes out of its tail. But what about Shellbro's Mega Evolution? Well, that's easily explained. In Emerald, its Pokedex entry reads, its tail has a Shellder firmly attached with a bite. As a result, the tail can't be used for fishing anymore. This forces it to reluctantly swim and catch prey. In a Leaf Green it reads, the Shellder that latches onto Slowpoke's tail is said to feed on the host's leftover scraps. So now that Slowpoke's tail can't be used for fishing, it has to swim and catch food, and Shellder eats whatever is left over. But it must be hard to eat those scraps when you're also biting onto Slowpoke's tail, so what if it can't get any of the scraps left over from Slowpoke? It starts to eat its way up the Slowpoke, and it's actually a Shellder that Mega evolves, and it gets all the way up to its neck, and its defense is through the roof because Shellder's shell is like diamonds. Don't believe me? Its Fire Red Pokedex entry reads, it is encased in a shell that is harder than diamonds. Inside, however, it is surprisingly tender. Speaking of Shellder, how come it makes the Slowpoke smarter when it bites into its head? Well, that's because it's poisonous despite its lack of poison typing. Now, it doesn't say anything about poison in Shellder's Pokedex entries, but in Shellking's, it does. In its Pokemon Silver Pokedex entry, it says, when its head was bitten, toxins entered Slowpoke's head and unlocked an extraordinary power. And in Pokemon Crystal, its Pokedex entry reads, every time it yawns, Shellder injects more poison into it. The poison makes it more intelligent. So this poison somehow makes Slowpoke extremely smart? Well, yes and no. I believe that Shellder actually has full control of the Slowpoke at this point, mainly because when Shellder is on Slowpoke's tail, the poison can't make it all the way up to its head to take control of the host. This is shown by its Diamond, Pearl and Platinum Pokedex entries which read, though usually dim-witted, it seems to become inspired if the Shellder on its tail bites down. This is because when it bites down, it injects more poison into the Slowpoke, and it's not like we haven't seen a Pokemon that evolves when its body becomes a host. Earlier we even established that when it can't get food any other way, the Shellder eats its way up the Slowpoke to get to its head, which is where it wants the poison to go to have full control of the Slowpoke. But by the time it makes it up to its neck, it can't chew anymore because it's got a Slowpoke filling up its mouth. But why does Shellder change how it looks when it becomes a Slowpoke? Maybe there is something in its brain and its tail that makes it evolve in a different way? This isn't unheard of in Pokemon, as Onix can evolve into Steelix when traded while holding a Metal Coat item, and Gligar evolves into Gliscor when it's holding a Razor Fang item while leveling up at night, so it's quite likely that Slowpoke's tail and brain are evolve items for Shellder. Slowpoke tails are even an item in the Generation 2 games, so maybe if you give a Slowpoke tail to a Shellder, it would evolve into Shellbro, but without the Slowpoke. I'd say do the same with a Slowpoke head, but I don't think I need to explain why you shouldn't do that. So just to recap what we've discussed here, Slowpoke stays the same throughout all its supposed evolutions. It's actually Shellder that evolves. When on a Slowpoke's tail, it reacts to it and evolves into a Shellbro. When it injects its poison into Slowpoke's tail, it doesn't get to the brain, so it eats its way up, but gets stuck before the head, and that's why it can Mega Evolve. When Shellder manages to bite onto a Slowpoke's head, it injects its poison into its head and takes control of the Slowpoke. Oh, one more thing. Shellking's Ruby and Sapphire Pokédex entries read, Slowking undertakes research every day in an effort to solve the mysteries of the world. However, this Pokemon apparently forgets everything it has learned if the Shellder on its head comes off. So in conclusion, Shellder is a genius mastermind trying to solve the mysteries of the world by using a Slowpoke as its host to find these answers. And now I'm really curious as to what would happen if two Shellder bite onto the same Slowpoke. And what would happen if the one on the tail Mega Evolves? We'd probably have a Shellbro King, and it'd have really high defense from the tail Shellder and really high special attack and defense from the head Shellder. But what if we got another Shellder on the little bit of tail that's showing through the Mega Shellbro? Would it get even more defense stats? I think we've just created the best Pokemon ever. I want that Pokemon on my team now. I hope you guys liked my theory on why it's actually Shellder that evolves and not Slowpoke. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'd enjoy my Pokemon Rivalry series where I compare two Pokemon that are generally considered rivals in the Pokemon universe, or my Fire Red randomized Nuzlocke Let's Play. Don't forget to like this video if you like this video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the near future. I'd also like to apologize if the audio sounds kind of weird because I'm kind of have a cold, but I really wanted to get this video recorded, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, even though I'm sick. I'll see you in the next video. See yous then.